it again, welcoming you to another episode of the Acid Quote of the Day. This is the Andrew Lake Podcast. My name is Doster Andrew Lake. Very pleased to be with you, sending you warm wishes. Worm wishes. Warm wishes. Well, I guess you can have worm wishes as well. Or bunny rabbit wishes. Guinea pig wishes. Reptile wishes. Any kind of animal that you like. I send it to you. Enjoy your animal times. The quote of the day is, get it. It's an imperative. It's not a question. It's not a statement. And it really sums up so much of what I am always talking about. Get it. Well, it means what? What do you mean, it? The message from on high? The truth you find for yourself? Your newfound ability to count your blessings? That which can't be said? That which can't be explained like a joke? The message from on high is this vision of how you can be so much more than you are, how you can live in a larger consciousness. The truth you find for yourself, within yourself, is something that no one can tell you about because it's yours, it's personal. It's your thing that you can only ever find by yourself, through yourself, and within yourself. And counting your blessings, well, who can not do more of that? I mean, you got to count your blessings. I mean, this phrase, count your blessings, it's so true and yet so easy to... I mean, it's a cliche that you hear even as a kid, you know, your uncle or your auntie might say, you gotta count your blessings. You gotta count your blessings. Oh, please piss off. Get out of my face. But really, in a sense, it actually is quite true. I mean, it rings true when you realize it. You have to see what you've got within your life that is so good. That is such a beautiful thing to cherish. And that which can't be said is the thing that we dance around so much. And I mean, get it. I mean, getting is... I mean, what's the dichotomy of getting? Getting and giving? Like you get something or you give something. You only get what you give, sort of thing, maybe. Or having and being. That's another dichotomy that's related to this. You have something or you be something. Which is actually similar to understanding and experiencing. If we were to divide being into two things, it would be understanding and experiencing. And of course, understanding has to have some sort of degree of experience. When we say understand, we seem to kind of assume that means cognizing it in a phonetic, sort of verbal kind of way. Comprehension of the mind, of the words, of the story, of the way that it's constructed in the psychological sense. But really, true understanding is experience. True understanding is the feeling within your body. It's the fire in your blood. It's the earth in your bones. It's the air in your lungs. When you understand something, you have experienced it. You know the experience of it, which is why some words resonate more than others. This is why some words you understand more than others, because you have an experience from them. Here's another dichotomy. Earning and spending. What you earn and what you spend is not quite so black and white as what you might first look at. You might think you earn your money. You might think that it's coming your way. And it doesn't even have to be money, right? Earning and spending can be an energetic thing. It can be an emotional thing. If you look at your emotional profile and think, well, what am I earning? You might think, well, what am I spending? There is a metaphor there to be understood. And of course, when we talk about emotions, you might even think about expressing and feeling, which are both connected. You can truly express yourself only when you really feel what you're feeling. And a way to find exactly what you're feeling is to allow yourself free expression. Why is it that you're expressing a particular thing? Well, it's because you're feeling a particular thing. And maybe that's not a direct opposite dichotomy, but that they are just related, expressing and feeling, earning and spending, having and being, understanding and experiencing. getting and giving. Another one would be nature and man. We see nature as something natural. The trees, the birds, the clouds, the waves on the ocean shore, and man with his machines and his information and his technology and his way of conquering nature, of going in and reorganizing things to his own agenda. And if we take this, but if we get back to this thing of dichotomies, I mean, like, what is the dichotomy of dichotomies? It's like dichotomies and paradigms. Because dichotomies is always a pair. You always have an opposite, or you always have two things, like science and religion, narrative and rationality, transcendence and progress. These are opposites. Well, in the case of transcendence and progress, that's not exactly an opposite. People often think that progress and unprogress or regression is the opposite. But I like to put transcendence as the opposite of progress, because progress is only ever on one plane. It's only ever on one level. Whereas transcendence is about depth and height. It goes beyond progress. But all of these, if you look at them, they're dichotomies, right? They're two things. You just pick two things and you play them off each other, whether they're opposites or connected or what. So the dichotomy of dichotomies is dichotomies and paradigms, because a paradigm is something else entirely. A paradigm is a collection of dichotomies. A paradigm is a way of contending with opposites and how things are connected. It's a web of beliefs, ideas, experiences, things that you are aware of, things that you are unaware of, forces that exert an impression upon you, an influence upon you that you might be aware of or you might not be aware of. And when you look at paradigms, they're big things, yes, like postmodernism or capitalism or spirituality or philosophy or meditation. These are huge perspectives that colour everything throughout your day, week and month. Okay, what about this one? Information and wisdom. You might get information, although that we can debate, but do you get wisdom? Do you get the wisdom in the information? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Get it. You get the information, you've heard the words, you know it to some extent, someone has said it to you. When someone says something to you, you know it. If it's in the language that you speak, you know it, you get it, but do you get it? Do you see the wisdom of it? Do you see the implications? Do you see what it means? And perhaps meaning and meaninglessness is another dichotomy. And getting it means you find a deeper meaning. You find deeper living. This is why it's so important to get it, because that's how you get deeper meaning. You find the wisdom in the information. And deeper living, or deeper meaning, is a far cry. It's light years ahead of no meaning. Many people experience this feeling of meaninglessness, insignificance, because they're lost in the information. There's this huge vastness of information with no wisdom. And I'm explaining this to you now, and you do get it. You are actually getting it as I say these words. There's now no longer any excuse, because the wisdom to find is up to you to find, to be able to hear it, particularly when you have someone like me who's making it as clear and obvious as it can be. Okay, how about this one? Focused and diffused mode. We have this idea of focusing your attention. Like in your visual field, you have one point which you look at, and that small point right in the middle of your visual field is the thing that's in focus, and everything else is blurred. And in opposition to that, or in contrast to that, you have the diffuse mode, where you're open and you're looking around and you're allowing your attention to move here or there or going anywhere, and you're exploring. That's actually a false dichotomy. That's actually a trick of perception dynamics. And if you learn perception dynamics, which you can learn if you learn the Doster method, then you can see how this is a trick. Now, of course, a trick is not anything bad. Nothing wrong with a trick. It actually can help you to learn perception dynamics. And in the Doster method, we work with focus and diffused mode, particularly with the visual field. But you work with it in order to see how it is a false dichotomy. You work with it in order to see that there's actually so much more to it. And when you see that, you see exactly why we use this technique in that way, why we have this dichotomy, why we explain it the way we do, why we explain things in a simple way. Many things get explained in a simple way when they're far more complicated and they're far more interesting, they're far more multidimensional. For example, heart and mind. Now, when I say heart, you know what I mean. And when I say mind, you know what I mean. You've heard these words before, and you've had your experiences before. And yet, of course, there's so much more that can always be experienced. Heart is love. Heart is the fire. Heart is the passion. Heart is the expansion, the explosive feelings. It's existential realization. It's unconditional connection. It's opening. It's beauty. And it's so much more. Mind is thought, psychology, masculine, neuroses, technicalities, communication, comprehension, cognizing, although cognizing is a word that has its own things that we have to be careful with because there's actually a lot of misunderstanding between cognizing and mind. It's possible to cognize without the mind. So cognitive development and cognition and comprehension, we sort of have to be tentative with. But to continue on, mind is basically words. Mind is basically the phenomenon of your thoughts. It's the sound of your mind. It's the images of your mind. Even just by saying that as general structures of thought, you know that if we got into the content of it, well, that's so vast. Yes. It includes all communication. There's so much more to mind. And there's a reason why heart and mind is a dichotomy. They are very much opposed in many ways. Okay, how about this one? Ownership and entitlement. What is it that you own? And if you own it, do you really get it? Do you really have it? What about this one? Wealth inequality and consciousness inequality. It's almost like we're getting into 4D paradoxes. You remember what a 4D paradox is? So it's when you have four things that are opposites unto each other and also unable to live without each other. So an example would be night and day, dark and light. So daytime is light, but there's also darkness in the day. There's shadows, there's light and dark in the day. And nighttime is dark, but there's also light and dark in the night, because you have some parts that have lights and some parts that have darkness. So some bits are more light than dark. And night and day are opposites. You only have night when there's no day, and you only have day when there's no night. So that's an example of a 4D paradox, a four-way paradox. And with inequality, we have wealth inequality, which means that you have a certain amount of money in one class of peoples, which is a large amount, and a certain amount, which is a small amount, the lower class. And then you have consciousness inequality. How conscious is a person? It's possible to have big money and to be very unconscious, to be very unaware of your body, your feelings, how it is that you think, your conditioning, why it is that you behave the way you do, what it is that you see yourself in when you contemplate reality. And many people would even say these people that have big wealth, they're very unconscious. You look at the way that they behave, the way they talk, the way they think. It looks very much so in many times, in many ways, that they are unconscious. What about this one? Neuroses and clarity. Do you get it? Do you get how it is to come out of neuroses? Are you overthinking? Are you stimulating your mind too much? Are you getting into tangles? Are you fumbling the things in your life? Are you fumbling the objects in your life? Just the other day, I had the telephone lost, not in my car, not in my backpack, but somewhere else. And I ended up getting on a payphone, trying to call it and realize, it's not in my car. And I got into such a fluster. I couldn't believe that I had lost my phone. And your phone is something you keep on you, right? It's in your pocket. It's like, where could it be? And anyway, it was just at the last place that I had it. And I couldn't believe that when I found it. And, this is a neuroses, right? This is behavioral neuroses. Looking for your telephone when you've misplaced it and getting into a fluster and saying to yourself, I had it just a few moments ago. How could it be lost? That's neuroses. Now, of course, even more common than that is neuroses of thoughts. We go around with thinking way too much, so often. And as I'm saying this, do you get it, right? There's a clarity to be had. There's a clarity to be seen. As I explain this to you, you get the clarity. You do get it. Okay, how about this one? Resistance and releasing. This is a big one for letting go. Can you see the difference between releasing something and having resistance to something? Can you feel the difference between having a feeling run its process through you or having a feeling that you are trying to avoid within you? And that's a big one. That's a very deep one. Okay, how about this one? Cliche and originality. Aren't you just sick of those cliches? Aren't you just sick of the same conversations that you hear on the internet over and over again? At what point did the internet just become the same old thing again and again for you? Has that happened yet? Have you seen that? Have you realized that? Everything is a cliche. Until someone pops their hand up and says, get it. And the thing that you get is that it is a cliche. And once you get it, that is exactly how it changes from being a cliche. You start to listen more intently. You start to have more discernment and you move away from the things that are cliched and more towards the things that are original. The things that are unique, the things that are quirky, the things that are eccentric, the things that are, of course, the Andrew Lake podcast. The things like acid quote teas. The quotes like, get it. It's an imperative for a reason. You go beyond alarmist culture. You have a deeper connection to your daily feelings. You have emotional availability. Your ability to perceive expands. Your perception dynamics expand. And ultimately, you can hear the music. When you get it, you can hear the music. And I hope right now you can feel the love and you can have a good day. The day is there. Take it. As a very special friend of mine once said. And I did have another story to say, but it looks like we've run out of time. So we'll wrap this up. And as always, you can head on over to the Etsy store, get your acid quote tea. And as always, I'm sending you love, warm feelings, hoping you have a beautiful day. Stay safe, stay cute, enjoy your times, keep it real, and we'll be back very soon with more. Sending you love. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye. See you later.